In case you needed a little bit more evidence of just how perfectly the Broncos executed this Devaughn Vele trade, I have some more big-time NFL media members that are singing the praises of the Denver Broncos. Welcome in Broncos Country to the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. My name is Moose, and on today's episode, I'm going to tell you just who was talking about how the Denver Broncos fleeced the Saints yet again. And this time also, I'm going to give you a little bit more of a Saints-Broncos preview because we can't spend the entire episode talking about what we already know. So the Broncos, like I said, were praised by the national media. Multiple different sources, including The Herd and Pro Football Talk, addressed this specific trade. And Colin Cowherd has always kind of had a bromance with Sen Payton. We knew this, so I try to take everything that he says, at least with a grain of salt. But I did want to at least mention something that I actually agree with him. And he clearly stated on his show that offensive masterminds dominate the NFL. And I could not agree more. That's not to say that defensive-minded coaches can't have really good run organizations. But all of the top ones, at least in 2025, are run by really smart, really educated, and tenured offensive-minded head coaches. Here's what he specifically had to say about the Devaughn Vele trade. Art of the steal, among other things that he said. He, meaning Devaughn Vele, is 2 to 3 years left of his prime. I think we can kind of take or leave that. We could split hairs on that. But Sen Payton knew that. And that is what great offensive coaching does. You find insane value later in the draft. You make him an immediate productive fit in your system. And then you either sign him, like Brock Purdy, or you flip him. So the Broncos will get a top of the 4th and a top of the 7th round pick in 2027 for a receiver who will be 28 by December. Now, we can go back and forth as many times as we want about the value that Devaughn Vele would have brought to the Broncos. And I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke up your butt and say that the Broncos got rid of a player that had no value. Devaughn Vele can clearly become a primary target for whoever is a quarterback in New Orleans. Right now, to me, it looks like Tyler Shuck. But they're kind of depleted on weapons right now. And in my opinion, the Saints actually do get a little bit of value, but the Broncos definitely got way, way more. It's like an 80-20 swing for the Broncos. Here's what we know about the timeline. Vele was drafted in the 7th round of the 2024 draft, a player in most eyes who was a fight to make the roster. He ended up making the roster and actually had a very productive season last year for the Broncos, had almost 500 yards of receiving. But then you flip him for a 4th and a 7th. So automatically with the 4th round pick addition, you're getting insane return on investment. And I think it's important to note also, the Broncos don't take a hit in talent. Whoa, Moose. Are you saying that Devaughn Vele wasn't a talent? No. But we have also seen the emergence of Pat Bryant and Troy Franklin, something that I have continued to talk about. And in my opinion, this is the wide receiver order that you're going to see from 1 to 5 coming up in 2025. Courtland Sutton is going to be your 1. As of right now, Marvin Mims is your 2. Franklin and Bryant are your 3 and your 4, and Trent Sherfield will come in at 5. Again, I've gone back and forth about if the Broncos now keep 5 or if they keep 6 wide receivers. I'm inclined right now that if they did keep 6, to believe that Courtney Jackson would end up slipping in that 6 wide receiver position. We'll talk about him in just a little bit. But right now, these are the 5 in the order that I believe in is what you're going to see from the Denver Broncos. If you didn't get rid of Devaughn Vele, he would have been behind Pat Bryant at wide receiver 5. So you flipped a 7th round pick who would have been a wide receiver 5 on your team for a 4th and a 7th. It all leads me to believe one thing, not only from Colin Cowherd, but for myself as well. The Saints were desperate to get talent in their room, and the Broncos took full advantage of them. Now, that doesn't mean that they're sitting there scheming like evil masterminds. But if Mickey Loomis called up George Payton and said, we need a player, who are you willing to part ways with? And George Payton said, well, Devaughn Vele, but he'd have to really make us an offer we couldn't refuse. To then get the 4th round compensation, Even Sen Payton said it himself. It was just something that we couldn't pass up for this football team. Remember, his heart is no longer in New Orleans. He is a member of the Denver Broncos, focused on bringing a Super Bowl championship to Mile High. So when you get that kind of offer, as much as Devaughn Vele might have been a fan favorite and might have earned his way into a roster spot, it was simply too good to pass up. Now, there was another question that I kind of threw out there, and is there a little bit of love still between Mickey Loomis and Sen Payton? Like, is Mickey, the GM of the Saints, by the way, is there a little bit of like, we kind of miss you, Sean, so we're willing to, maybe help you out a little bit here and there while also still prioritizing our football club? Maybe, maybe not. That's a different video for a different day. But as I mentioned, it wasn't just Colin Cowherd that sung the praises of the Denver Broncos fleecing the New Orleans Saints. Pro Football Talk also got on this. And this is a football show on NBC Sports. Second-year wideout Troy Franklin had a strong summer. And the arrival of third-round pick Pat Bryant alongside Courtland, Sutton, and Marvin Mims mean that Vele wouldn't be guaranteed a weekly role in the offense. I want to highlight that for a second. Weekly role in the offense. So the Broncos opted for the draft assets instead of someone Payton believes will be a really good player in New Orleans. So it almost sounds like this was a win-win, more so for the Broncos than the Saints, for both teams. So Pro Football Talk clearly saw it. I see it, and I hope you see it as well. And it was something that I posited on this question, or on this show, a couple of days ago. I had said, what is Devaughn Vele's role? And a lot of you got back and were like, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, not to toot my own horn here, but I call the game kind of like I see it. There's too much talent emerging in this Denver Broncos wide receiver room to not at least explore an opportunity like that. And also, I thought we saw something from another player that might end up making this roster as wide receiver 6, and that's Courtney Jackson. Not because of how much he brings in the wide receiver game, because Vele is a better wide receiver than Courtney Jackson. But Courtney Jackson also adds a different element to special teams. And I want you to think about this for a second. If the goal is to start developing Marvin Mims into a more wide receiver, explosive offensive weapon goal, then Courtney Jackson can kind of take the place of Marvin Mims as a punt returner. He's a dual threat wide receiver and special teamer. He can be a gunner. He can be a returner. And he can be a wide receiver on specific packages. That doesn't mean that he's going to get in on every play. He might only see a couple of offensive packages per game. But his value as kind of like a Marvin Mims light can also develop Marvin Mims into the wide receiver 2 that a lot of Broncos fans want to see him do. Do you see how it all makes sense from a schematic standpoint? Which is why the Broncos absolutely won the deal. And if you agree with me, hit that thumbs up icon. Not only does it help grow the channel, but it shows that you believe in this coaching staff. You believe in this front office to make the right decisions at the right time for this organization. Now, coming up, I do want to get to the second half of this video because we can't just talk all about the Devaughn Vele trade. It's over. It's happened. We now have to focus on the Broncos moving forward, heading into week 1 against the Titans. So, our very final preseason game against the Saints, where the starters will play, I'm going to preview what I want to see on offense and what I want to see on defense. Before I do that, today's episode is sponsored by our friends over at Prize Picks. Listen, I got to tell you, if you're looking for real money sports action, Prize Picks is the place to do it. It's the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. It's super simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 players' stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could win up to 2,000 times your money. And if you want even more evidence of how to play, this was a lineup that I cooked up just a couple of days ago. It's this simple. Pick a player, pick their stat, more or less, send it in. It's that easy. And all you have to do is go to the App Store, click the download button, find that purple P with the black background, and hit it. And once you do that, use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. I'll have all of that in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, run your game. So the offensive preview, because Sen Payton said that you're going to expect about 8 to 12 plays, which is usually about a drive, maybe 2 if you go 3 and out for the starters. So offensively, Bo needs to come out slinging it. And I say that more so because, not because I'm worried about him getting off to a slow start like he did against the 49ers, but because of how much Jarrett Stidham has been showing us this preseason. Bo has way more talent than Stidham does, and an understanding of how to run this offense. So I need Bo to come out and just, from snap one, be on with it. Make sure that you identify the blitz packages. Make sure that you have an understanding of where the play is going and which player it's designed for. I'm not worried about Bo in the slightest, but I do need to see you come out and start slinging it. Which leads me into my second point. The starting O-line needs to be prepared for the blitz. They were not ready for it with the San Francisco 49ers. Robert Saleh came out with a ton of different blitz packages, including safeties and corner blitzes that the Broncos clearly weren't ready for. They came out a little flat-footed. So the starting O-line's got to be prepared for that. If they are, I have no doubt in my mind they'll be able to hold up Bo Nix. It's a very talented and cohesive offensive line. My final point on the offensive preview, can we get a J.K. Dobbins sighting, please? I've seen a lot from R.J. Harvey, which is great. But I kind of want to see RB1 right now. J.K. Dobbins, you brought him in to be this team's lead back, at least to start. And, of course, Sen Payton rotates his back, so, no, we don't necessarily believe that it's J.K. Dobbins and then everyone else. But I need to see J.K. on the field a little bit. Just give me something, wet my whistle a little bit. No diddy. And then, of course, Sen Payton reiterating exactly what I just told you about the offense. Our plan is to play our starters from 8 to 12 or 8 to 10 plays, depending. So I was wrong. It wasn't 8 to 12. It was 8 to 10. But considering if you go 3 and out, you'll probably bring your starters out for at least another drive. So you could be looking at a full drive if it goes down the field really well, or a one full drive and then a kind of a second mini drive. Also, the Broncos' second-string offense was firing against the Cardinals, so it is up to the first-teamers who are going up against the first-teamers against the Saints, who are also playing their starters, to go out and have themselves a game. So I've seen all I need to see so far from the second-string offense, including the offensive line. Now I need to see this first team really make it happen, and I believe they will. So it's preseason. We don't need to dive into like the X's and O's of everything. But enough at that point from what I said in my 3 takeaways. If we can do that, I will be fully ready for week 1 against the Titans. Make no mistake about it. Defensively, before we end today's show, establish yourself on the line of scrimmage early. This is something that I don't think the Broncos need to worry about, considering Vance Joseph has these guys buttoned up. So this is more so just kind of like minor tweaks, putting pressure on Spencer Rattler, who's a little bit more mobile than Toon was last year. Rattler, maybe not a running-style quarterback, but definitely athletic enough to make things happen outside of the pocket. So be aware of that if you are going to play guys like Jonathan Cooper and Nick Bonito to kind of set the edge and make sure that he doesn't go anywhere too far outside. And then finally, tighten up the run defense. This is not necessarily like it was bad last game, but there was one specific drive on that touchdown drive where they kind of had enough chunk plays with Amari DiMercato, the third-string running back for the Arizona Cardinals, where they were able to kind of bait the Broncos a little bit further up on the defensive line before attacking them over the air. And then scoring that touchdown. So tighten up that run defense just a little bit, and if you do all of those things, there's no doubt in my mind that the Broncos are going to absolutely crush this game against the Saints. Will the Broncos go 3-0 this preseason? It's not a statistic that everybody cares about because, let's be honest, it's the preseason. But it should be, something that we at least strive for because it always looks good to never have a loss in that win-loss record. So, yes or no in the comment section down below. One more time, if you are going to pull up to our Broncos and Saints live stream, it's a battle of the Traces. Trace Moustakas versus Trace Gerard. So make sure you pull up and hit subscribe to join the Broncos fans that are all going to be there rocking out and hanging out on Saturday. So make sure, like I said, you hit that subscribe button and click that bell notification so you don't miss a thing. My name is Moose. Until next time, a little mile high salute for you. Be cool.